Hi friends, welcome you all for today's session 3 of HRA Framework. So Unit 2 we are covering here, and in this session we are going to discuss HR Maturity Framework and LAM Framework. So two framework we are going to discuss here. So take up the very first HR Maturity Framework. So HR Maturity Framework is displayed here. Okay, what you're going to look here, it's a HR Maturity Framework. It's having level 1 to level 5. So we're going to have 5 levels we're going to discuss here, or we call this as a 5 stage of HR maturity model. So this is very much similar to your HR maturity journey. Okay, but not the similarity too much, but you can just compare a little bit with HR maturity journey to HR maturity framework here. Okay, so now taking up these 5 levels, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, and these 5 stage maturity model clearly demonstrates what they're going to demonstrate is different levels, what we can say, the 5 different levels or the 5 stages that HR professionals, so we HR professionals has to go through, we have to go through and we have to evolve. Okay, we are going to evolve our talent management and the learning practices. Okay, from this whatever you're seeing the framework here, so we HR professions are going to take this maturity framework to evolve our professions as well as our learning principles or learning practices. Okay, where we're going to see the transformations, we are going to see the transformations being a critical, that is a crucial separate stage for us. That is from each levels, okay, from starting from level 1 to level 5, there is a learning practices for HR professionals. So we are going to evolve from each stage, okay, from each stage, from the stage 1 to stage 5, we can see the transformation in the professional 2, HR profession 2. That is what the HR maturity framework discusses here. So taking up the diagram explanation, what we can say is, so from this diagram we can see that we are going to have the 5 levels, that is L1, L2, L3, L4, L5. So what it says. So I am going to explain you very slowly regarding to these levels now. So let's discuss regarding to the level 1 first, what the level 1 says now. So level 1 is an initial, it's a very first initial stage, what we can say. Okay, it's an initial, that is a inconsistent management, what we can say. So level 1 is, it's a very beginning stage, okay, initial stage, we can say initial level. So it is an inconsistent management. So there is no consistency is there, and it's a full of unpredictable. Okay, you cannot predict in this stage, okay, whatever happens, and it's poorly controlled. So it's a very poor management is there, and you cannot control any the parameters here, uncontrollable. That is what we say, it is totally uncontrollable. Okay, and we try to just reactive. We try to react in this stage. Okay, because why are we reacting here? Because it's totally poorly managed and it's poorly uncontrolled and we don't know. Okay, so that is why what we can say, we just react here for this inconsistent management here. Okay, and it is totally unmanaged. It's totally of unmanaged things here. Okay, so whereas coming to the level 2, okay, level 2 is what it's something is you are managed. Okay, this is something called a, it's a people management. We can call it as a people management here, as well as we try to manage here. We are trying to manage. So whereas in the level 1, it was unmanaged. Here we are trying to manage little bit, and we are also reactive. We are also reactive in this level L2 stage also. So we can call this as a people management stage, and it is also of a repeated practices. We can use this stages for our repeated practices. That's what we call it as a people management here, because people management functions, you know that so many functions comes into picture. So it is a repeated practices, what we can say. And now coming to the level 3. So level 3 speaks about, it's a defined, it's very defined. Okay, when you compare to the L2 and L1, whereas L1 is a very initial one, whereas L2 you start managing, and L3 it's completely defined one. So it's something else where you are not reactive, whereas in these two stages you are reactive, whereas in the L3 you are proactive, because it's already been defined, because some initial to the managed to the defined stage you are coming, so already it's been filtered, so it's more of proactive thinking happens here. So what we can say, it's all about the competency management. You have to manage the competencies here. Okay, competencies are the skills here. Okay, we are going to manage the competencies here, and more of this defined stage, that is L3 stage, speaks about the competency based practices, that is knowledge, skill, ability. Now, so all these 3 concepts based practices we come across in the level 3. Okay, now coming to the level 4, okay, so level 4 is something about, it's a capability management. What we say, it's all about the capability management. Again, it is a predictable, because why it is predictable? Because again, we say from the defined stage, we are going to the predictable stage, something where you can predict the future. So what we say, it's a predictable. So somewhere when you are predicting the future means you can, that is, you can measure and you can control the things. Whereas in the initial stage we said it's unmanageable, it is unpoorly controlled, all those things we said here. Whereas here we can try to manage and we can try to control. Okay, so in the level 4, so we call that as what? A predictable, we can say the predictable management or the capability management, we can say. So somewhere what we are doing here is we are going to measure. Okay, that's what we say now, what gets measured gets managed here, that's what we say. So here we are measuring as well as we are empowered practices we see. Okay, whatever the practices comes into the picture, we are empowering. Okay, I'm just again going to come back after this explanation. I'm going to give you much again the clarity of these levels and the stages here. And now coming to the level 5, what this level 5 speaks is, it's about the optimize stage. Okay, in our HR framework, it's an optimize stage what we say, and total we can say this as a change management. Okay, this we can call it as a change management, because here we are optimizing. It something means what? We are improving. So we are improving. Okay, so we are coming into the betterment. Okay, better performance, better outcome, desired outcomes. So there is a lots of improvement is there here. So we can call that as a change management stage. So when you speak about the change management, naturally there is lots of continuous improving practices happens here. So lots of what? Continuous improvement is there here. So coming back again to this what? HR maturity framework. Let me explain clearly again what is this HR maturity framework here only. Okay. What we can understand is, see, from this framework we are having 5 levels. Okay, level 1 to level 5, or we can call it as a stages. 5 stages we can call. Why these 5 stages are very much important is, or why you have to demonstrate this framework, okay, especially in our HR analytics, is because each different levels, when you're just climbing the different stages or the different levels, we HR professionals, we undergo, okay, we undergo through, we have to undergo or we have to evolve. Okay, so there comes into the talent management. Okay, because when you're seeing the transformations, naturally there comes into the picture of our talent management, and even the learning practices, what you can say here, lots of transformation happens here. Okay, so now let's go to the table now. The table says, what this diagram says is L1. So now let's understand this figure very typically now, that is L1 to L5. Okay, so now let's what we call these stages as. So this is first we call this as initial stage. It's a very beginning stage, and from the initial we are going to the manage stage. So where we are trying to manage. After managing we are defining. Okay, in the L3 what's happening? It's been defined form, it's been filtered from, and the defined form is there, and after defined form it's a predictable stage. Okay, where you are trying to predict the future, and from that predictable future to optimizing, we are going to the resource optimizing. Okay, that is one way of understanding, that is from the initial to the optimize. So what we are doing in the 5 stages, your initial is there, and once there is an initial, you are managing and define, predictable, and optimize is there. Okay, that is the one thing. And now let's try to understand what is happening in each stages. Okay, whereas in the initial, that is in the level 1, what is happening is, it is uncontrollable, unpredictable, and it's poorly controlled. Because of all these factors, it's been reactive. What you try to do is, you try to react in the stages. The same things happen here in the L2 also. Even though it is managed, you know how to manage, but still it is reacting. You are reacting to the situation. Okay, but you know how to control. Okay, whereas in the very beginning stage you don't know how to control, whereas in the second stage you know how to control and manage. So but still you are reacting to the situations. Okay, now coming to the level 3, where it is defined, that means you know how to control, you know how to manage. So there are more of proactive thinking happening. Okay, proactive plans are there. Okay, and now coming to the L4. L4 is something where you are predicting. Predicting means again there should be some measures, control should be there. You know how to control, you know how to manage and how to measure. So we can say that it's a predictable. So from this predictable we are going to the optimizing. Optimizing is still you want to improve, still you want to see the better performance, so better outcome. So that we call it as what? Optimizing we say. So when it comes to the management of explanation again, so here we can say inconsistent management. So there is lots of inconsistencies there. So we can say in the beginning we can call that as a inconsistent management. And here it's all about the people management. When you say manage, what are we trying to manage in HR? So we have to manage of course our people. So people management comes into picture here. So okay, so all our people functional aspects, whatever it comes starting from the procurement till the maintenance, those things we are trying to manage here. That's called the people management here. And now coming to the defined, okay, defined, what it speaks about is you have to be very defined. That is what it's defining is from the managers, that is the competency. What we are trying to define from the people management is the competency. We are expecting from the human resource the expected competencies like knowledge, skill, abilities. So whether the competency is there, that we are assessing here. And next comes the predicting. Predicting is what? Capability. Making use of these people and their competency, we are going to predict the capability, okay, their performance here, okay, that has been predictable here. That is, we are measuring there, okay. And from this capability management, we are just moving to the change management. That is lots of improvement or the changes happens here, that we call it as a change management here. So what we can understand is this L1 is total, it is unmanaged. Whereas next L2 is something where your repeated practices, we come into the repeated practices. And here, and this L3 is all about your competency based practices. Now I am speaking about the practices, okay. It's unmanaged. Okay, unmanaged practices, what you can see in L1, whereas in the L2 what you can see is repeated practices, because it's all about the people management here. So it's all about repeated practices, whereas in the competency management it's about competency based practices, what we say, okay. And here it's all about capability management practices. It's about your empowering, you're giving a power, okay, participation, what we can say, the workers' participation, empowerment is given to the people here. So that we can call it as what? Empowered practices. And now coming to the last, that is the change management, that is continuous improvement practices, continuous improvement practices. So it's a wonderful framework, HR Maturity Framework. What we can understand is from the initial to the optimize, you have lots of how we are going to react to the situation, or whether you are reactive or whether you are proactive, whether you are control or uncontrolled. And next comes the beautiful management categories comes into picture, that is inconsistency management, people management, competency management, capability management, and next the last one is the change management. And when it comes to the practices are unpracticed here, that is unmanaged practices, what you can witness, and repeated practices, and the competency based practices, and then you have the empowered practices, that is the measured and empowered practices, and last one is continuous improving practices. So this, as an HR person, we come across in what? Throughout our profession, we try to evolve from L1 to L5. So this we call it as what? HR Maturity Framework. So this is how it is linked to our HRA framework is, because the framework, when I say the framework speaks about your 3 P's, policies, practices and programs. So we have to ensure from this diagram whether we are making a strong HRA framework. Okay, got it? So this is all about HR Maturity Framework. Okay, so now moving to the next framework, and this we call it as a LAMP framework. So what does this LAMP framework says about? So L stands for logic, A stands for analytics, and M stands for measures, and P stands for process. So all these 4 makes LAMP framework. So all these 4 are making what? A framework kind of things. Okay, so now let's understand one by one what this logic says, what this analytics says, what this measure says, and what this process says. So logic is something about rational. Okay, we go with the rational thinking and the talent strategy. Okay, just one point I'm just telling, and again coming back to the deeper ways of explaining the logic and all. Here analytics, it's about your valid questions and the results. Here something about logic speaks all about the storytelling concept, rational story based concept here. Whereas here in the analytics goes with what? It's a kind of questions based. Okay, you have a questions and you're coming with the results. You're coming with the answers here for this analytics. And measures is whether we are having a sufficient data, because finally, because it's all about analytics, we have to make use of the data and we have to try to see the measures. We have to value them. Okay, whether it is effective or efficient. That's what we do in the measures here. So whether we are having a sufficient data. And last one in the process, we see that whether we are having an effective knowledge management here. Okay, we are going to finalize that whether whatever the knowledge process is there, whether it is effective. Okay, now let's try to go with one by one each explanation we'll try to understand here. So now very beginning to take, that is a logic. What does it mean? Okay, so logic, see what this LAM framework finally speaks about is you should have, okay, whenever in HRA framework, that is when speaking regarding to your 3 P's, okay, policies, practice and programs, and these 4, okay, that is the logic, analytics, measures and process, makes you very clear understanding. So taking up the very first, the logic. Here logic, it speaks all about your vital connections. Okay, because lots of connections is there to whatever work we do, and lots of reasoning will there, and lots of rational thinking is there. When I say rational thinking, what? Logic based thinking, rational based thinking is all about the quantitative based thinking, data based thinking. Okay, so rational, talent, strategy, what we can say here. And that is also something about the story. Okay, story that connects. Okay, story is being connected to the numbers. That's what I said, a quantitative. So something it is finally connecting to the numbers and the outcome. That is what the logics all speaks about. When I say logic is all about something about a rational. Okay, it speaks about the rational, fact based, information based, or the number based, or the outcome based. Okay, finally that should try to connect. Okay, it is going to give us the connection here. See, without proper logic, okay, when you are not having a proper logic, it is highly impossible. It is highly impossible to know where we are looking for, and we don't know what is our insight also. So we don't know where we are traveling. So finally, logic is very important for insight. Okay, we know from the foresight we are getting the insight. Okay, that's a huge journey. Okay, that is a prediction. Okay, so it is not at all possible. It is impossible what we say. Okay, now the logic element here, what it says is any measurement system provides. Okay, because any measurement system when you're taking, it's all about the story based. What we say, it's a story behind the connection. Because we look into the connectivity. Because when I'm saying yes, now attrition is happening, yes, this is happening, but I want the database fact that there should be some connectivity should be there. So I'm looking into the connection. How I'm getting the connection? With the number based. That is, I'm having a data of the past, the present and the future. I can just predict. Okay, past it says yes 5%. Now the present it says 7.5%. So it's been increased by 50%. So like this we can see the effects. Okay, and there comes the outcome here. That's what we can say is logic element of any measurement when you take into the system, they provides a story behind the connection. We have a story behind the connection that is between the numbers and the results. Okay, numbers and the results, and we can see the effects there also. Okay, so examples what we can give from this logic is examples like health. Okay, health and wellness. Okay, employee turnover, okay, performance, absenteeism, etc., etc. So these are the examples what we can take as the examples for this logic to understand. That's what I told now. Turnover, past it was like 5%, now the present is 7.5%, so it has been increased by 50%. So future it is going to be a disaster. That way we just take up the explanation here. So finally this framework, now what we can understand from this logic is it depicts the connection between our HR. Okay, HR and our HR 3 P's, that is the framework, that is the policies, practices and programs. Okay, and where we can see the effects. Okay, effects on what? The finally it is going to affect on the employee attitude and their engagement. That is what we say here. So this is all about the logic here. So you understood what is this logic explaining here? Okay, so finally what we can say is, so why are we keeping this, why are we running behind the people data? So why are we going with the numbers and why are we looking into the outcome based on the numbers is finally from this we are going to measure, okay, we are going to measure our HR practices, the programs and the policies, and from this is going to affect on the employees' attitude and their engagement. Okay, got it? Okay, now moving to the next one. So that is called analytics. Okay, we have the next in the framework is analytics. Okay, analytics is all about it finds answers. When you're applying the analytics, it finds answers in the data. Because here you have our data and from the data, so analytics is going to give us what? The answers. It is going to give us the interpretations. So why it is happening, for what reason it is happening. So you are going to get lots of answers here. So analytics is about drawing the right conclusion from the data. So you have a logic based here, you have a number based here, so you have some outcome here, okay. So we know that effect on the what employees behavior and the attitude and the engagement and all. So from this analytics what we are doing is we are interpreting here, we are coming to the conclusion from the data based here. So what we can say is analytics includes stats, because when I am saying analytics, okay, because if I want to interpret, I have to make use of the little bit of basic sciences, that is a business science as well as a statistics here. So here we are going to go beyond, we are going to go beyond the skill and we are going to identify those skill based and articulate the key issues here. Okay, and finally here what we do in analytics is we are going to gather. We are gathering and using appropriate data within and outside HR functions. So when you come to the interpretation, what we try to pull the data is, we are going to pull the data from basically from internal as well as the external HR functions. Okay, so that we can make appropriate conclusions. Okay, this analytics finally it transforms, it is going to transform the HR logic and HR measures into a rigorous insight. Okay, analytics what it is going to do is finally it is going to transform your logical part, okay, and the measuring part here into the rigorous relevant insight what you're going to get it here. Fine, hope you understood what this analytics all speaks about. Here we are going to get the answers. We are going to in this analytics stage what we're going to get is the answers. We're only looking for the answers part here, interpretations, the answers in the form of interpretation. How are we getting the answers and interpretations? We are getting from the logical part, that is from the database we are getting. So here in analytics we are applying the stats as well as the business science we are applying here. And again in this analytics we are pulling the appropriate data from both internal as well as HR, that is external HR functions we are pulling here. Okay, so this is all about analytics part. So now moving to the next one is measures. Okay, we are having a measures here. Okay, logic, analytics, measures here. So this measures, see we have already discussed in the very beginning unit, that is the first unit, HR measurements. HR measurements is something we are valuing our HR units or the operations or the functions, how effective, how efficient, and we are going to see the impact. That's what the measure says about. And we have got fundamental formulas are here, okay, to calculate each HR operations, and from that we come to know whether it is effective or efficient here. The same way here, measures. HR has many different measures. That's what I said now. We have got different operation functions are there. So from procurement till the maintenance, we're going to measure here. That's what we say. HR is having a different measures, and it's all based on criterias. We are having certain criterias. Based on those criterias we are trying to measure here, okay, such as we have got timeliness, okay, we have to take up the timeliness and the completeness, reliability and the consistency. When we are trying to measure something is nothing but our HR units. So when we are measuring our HR units, we have to consider the time factor, and we have to see whether it's a completeness is there, and we have to see whether there is a reliability is there and the consistency is there. So that we have to ensure in the whenever it comes to the measuring part. And measures always gives number right, because when I'm trying to measure, when I'm just valuing it in terms of efficiency and effectiveness and the outcome based, naturally you have the number rights here, okay, and it requires lots of investment. Remember, it requires lots of investment here. That is one more thing, and most feasible, When I say I'm just measuring something, my units have been measured, okay, my activities have been measured, HR activities, that means it's more feasible, it's most feasible. Example, what we can say, employee turnover, yes, I've got a formula, I measure. Absenteeism, yes. Recruitment, yes. So like this, we can measure, taking as an examples here. Again, what we can say is this measures, okay, should be directed where it has the greatest return. Okay, remember, whatever we are trying to measure here, we have to ensure that whenever you start measuring, whether there is a high return is there and we are improving is there. Okay, because always in our HR units, always we look into the return on investment. In all our HR units, there should be some return should be there and improvement should be there. That's the reason why we are trying to measure here. Okay, and moving to the last one, that is the process part here. Okay, so from logic, analytics, measures, we are moving to the process part here. And this is the final element, what we can say in the LAMP framework. The final element is the process. Okay, and process is something, it makes the insight, okay, it makes the insights motivating. Okay, because when I say the process, in all this there is a process, right? So I should get motivated and there should be some actionable. Okay, we have to get actionable here because I'm using the data, means that finally the data are going to influence my decisions here. Okay, so what we say, the process should be highly motivated, they should be highly actionable. Okay, and highly, these process should always try to influence the decision making process, because you're making using of the data finally, right? So those data should influence your decisions here. And process again affects the decisions and the behaviors, because ultimately finally what it is going to affect our decisions and the behaviors, your social structure and the knowledge and the cultural norms. Okay, so process is having so much of hidden agendas there. So what and all decisions are there, the behaviors are there, social aspect is there, knowledge aspect is there, and the cultural norms is also there. Okay, therefore effective process, what we can say is effective process programs must always bring the change management. What we say final is any process, if I say it is effective, finally it is something, it is bringing a change management, and that is an improvement and the continuous performance, the continuous betterment. So that means the system that affects that totally the system is being affected by the learning, and there is a knowledge transfer is there. Ultimately everybody is benefited by the learning process. That's what in the very beginning I said. What is this? From the maturity model I told, the level 1 to level 5. Here each HR professionals, we are going to evolve from each stages. Here also we are going to try to evolve. Okay, and there is a learning transfer is happening here. Example, what I can say is process, your job offer process. Example, job offer. So there when I'm just offering a job to a person, to any candidate, so there comes lots of elements comes into picture. Again there is a logic is there, and again there is a analytics is there, and again there is a measure is there when I'm just making an offer there. So there is lots of motivating, actionable things and decision making things are there, behavioral influence is there, structural influence is there, knowledge influence is there, cultural norms influence is also there. So that's what I can just witness here. So LAMP is having finally the 4, that is LAMP, what it says is logical part, analytics part, measure part, and the process part. So in this session, I think we have understood the two important frameworks, HR Maturity Framework and LAMP Framework. So coming session, we have got more frameworks to understand. See you soon in the next session. Thank you very much.